Wonderful. Thank you. We'll start the meeting. This is the Commission on Chicago Landmarks. Today's date is Thursday, November 9th. In a different room at 11:03 City Hall. I'll do like to call the meeting to order with the roll call. Commissioner Jekowitz.
Here.
Commissioner Fair.
Present.
Commissioner Ponce.
Present.
Commissioner Tolliver.
Present.
And I am Commissioner Wong. We do have a quorum. I would like to ask anyone wishing to make a statement on today's agenda to complete a public comment card and give the card to a member of the staff. Comment cards are available at the door. As a courtesy to other individuals wishing to offer comments, we ask that members of the general public limit your statements to 3 minutes or less. When the time comes for the public comment on the individual item on the agenda, I'll call names from the cards and ask you to come forward to the microphone and make a statement. Please state your name and interest, organization, or company you represent, if any. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. This was a regular meeting of October 5th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Tolliver. A second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ponce. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody disapprove? Having none, the motion carries unanimously. Second item on the agenda is the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Jackson Storage and Van Company warehouse. This is in the 22nd Ward, located at 3609, 3611 West Cermak Road, in Alderman Rodriguez's ward. And Dan Kleiber, if you could take it away.
Can you hear me okay? I am filling in for Matt Crawford, by the way. This is totally his work, totally his research, but he's unable to be with us today, my coworker Matt. So thank you for your consideration today is a preliminary landmark recommendation for the Jackson Storage and Van Company warehouse, a rare example of Venetian Gothic architecture applied to a household moving company facility. The building was recently purchased by Theater Y, and they are requesting landmark designation. The Jackson Storage and Van Company warehouse is located at 3609 West Cermak Road in the South Lawndale community area on Chicago's west side. We recommend that Jackson Storage and Van Warehouse meets 2 criteria for Chicago landmark designation, including criterion 1 for its heritage values. The Jackson warehouse reflects changes in how Americans lived, particularly how moving became more common. These images of other and earlier examples of household moving company warehouses are from a 1911 issue of Architectural Record. There, architectural critic P.B. White observed that the increasing mobility of American families had given rise to the household moving industry and a new building type. Changes in American society between World War I and the Great Depression created demand for the household storage and moving industry. One was urbanization, which led many Americans to relocate from rural to urban centers like Chicago. For most households, moving to the city meant downsizing to apartment living. But at the same time, a booming economy allowed people to acquire more household goods. These combined to create the need for household storage, even in cases when a household was not moving. With all of these factors in play, 28-year-old Thomas Jackson entered the moving industry in 1903 when he established the Chicago and West Suburban Express Company. Jackson began with horse-drawn wagons, but soon adopted motor trucks, shown here. Around 1900, Jackson was operating out of this warehouse at 3609 West Cermak Road, then known as 22nd Street. Like other household moving and storage companies, Jackson's warehouse was located on a neighborhood commercial street close to his residential customers. However, this building was not fireproof and therefore costly to insure. So, in 1927, Jackson decided to upgrade the property. He commissioned the architectural firm of Hall, Bisbee, and Renish for the project, and they prepared this rendering of the makeover. This 1928 issue of the trade journal Distribution and Warehousing reported on the reconstruction of the Jackson warehouse. Rather than demolishing the 1900 warehouse, the architects took a ship in a bottle approach that placed a new concrete structure within the old building while adding a floor and new facade. And that brings us to our second criterion for landmark designation. We believe that the building meets criterion 4 for exemplary architecture. The Jackson Storage and Van Company warehouse is a remarkable example of Venetian Gothic design applied to a utilitarian building. Three elements of the design are character-defining features of Venetian Gothic. First is the pointed arch arcade at its base. Second is the use of tapestry brick in a lozenge pattern on the upper floors. And third is the use of ogee arches in the cornice. Here are a few views of the interior, including a few of the remaining original storage compartments, a massive vault, and an arts and crafts style fountain designed by the Batchelder Studio of California. At left is the 14th century Doge's Palace in Venice, and the Jackson Storage and Van Company is clearly inspired by that city's culmination of Gothic architecture. Of the many revivals of historic architecture that rose up in the 19th century, the Venetian Gothic was distinct, and examples are rare. Interest in the architecture of Gothic Venice was stoked by John Ruskin, 1819 to 1900, an English historian and art critic whose 1851 book, The Stones of Venice, unveiled the architecture of that city's medieval period, particularly its polychromatic quality, its juxtaposition of materials, and its borrowing from the Byzantine and Arab worlds. Ruskin's unveiling of the Gothic architecture of Venice was widely read, and architects in England and America began reviving the style in the mid-19th century. This is the first American interpretation of the style, P.B. White's National Academy of Design in Manhattan from 1865. By choosing such a stylish Venetian treatment for his building on Cermak, Jackson was following standards recommended by the household moving and storage industry. The industry understood that unlike other warehouses catering to industry, the household moving and storage building had to use architecture as advertisement. In this 1928 advertisement, Jackson shows illustrations of its 7 locations, each with a unique architectural design. Moving a family's possessions was a uniquely personal service, and in many cases, their customers were women who took charge of household decor and furnishings during the move. And this 1940 ad from Jackson's leans into this, where it seems the lady in the house is not the one at wit's end. We recommend that the Jackson Storage and Van Company meets the separate integrity criterion also. The building remains in its original location on Cermak Road, and its setting on a commercial street serving the residential communities of North and South Lawndale remains little changed since 1927. The Venetian Gothic design and materials of the building are largely preserved. Changes to the building include replacement of the upper floor windows and the plate glass storefront windows at the first floor. In addition, steel grates have been added to several windows. These changes to the building are typical for a building of this type and vintage and do not sufficiently diminish its integrity. As noted earlier, the owner of the building, Theater Y, is requesting landmark designation. The building is located in the 22nd Ward, and Alderman Rodriguez is aware of the proposed designation. We recommend that the significant historical and architectural features of the building be preliminarily identified is all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the building. The Batch Elder tile water fountain in the first floor office. In addition, we also note that the common brick east and west elevations of the building are devoid of architectural treatment and secondary. We recommend that the commission may approve more significant changes to these elevations to support new uses of the building. You have a preliminary landmark recommendation to that effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Does the commission have any questions for Dan at this time? And for the record, I would note that Commissioner Murphy has joined us. If nobody has any questions, I'll open it up for public comments. Oh, there's questions. I'm sorry. So,
Maybe you noted it or I missed it in the document, but do we know the current use or the predominant use of the building?
Actually, would turn to the owners for that question, because I do not know.
Theater Y is an 18-year-old free theater. We occupy the first floor for entertainment purposes. We are working to be a hub of mission-aligned nonprofits within the community. So we have an organization called Equiticity that works on being a mobility hub. The Firehouse Community Arts Center is working out of the building. And we are working to try to create legal housing for artists and residents on other floors. So that's the general. The rooftop also has an extraordinary, beautiful view of downtown that we're working to try to make safe public space for the community. And food production on the roof. We are also, this is the detail that Trish can fill you in on too, but we've been working with the North London Community Coordinating Council for 2 years to try to understand how Theater Y can best serve the neighborhood. And so we've added youth programs that were not part of our organization in the past. We're working to try to have a satellite coffee shop, a Philo Cafe in the front space so that the building is open during the day as well as in the evening for the neighborhood. And we are really, really aware that theaters often function at the front line of gentrification. And so we are trying to think strategically about how to hold on to our neighbors, which includes a geothermal heating and cooling pilot site that will potentially take place at this building through the Citizens Utility Board to try to tap in our immediate neighbors into a much lower utility cost to put towards increasing property value or taxes.
there you go. There's a long answer. There's a long answer there. If you could state your name and organization for the record, please.
My name is Melissa Lorraine. I'm the co-founding artistic director of the Theater Y.
Thank you.
As a friend of mine says, you're promising too many things. And as someone who has a PhD in political science, we talk about rising expectations, and that can be a disservice if you promise too much and can't deliver. So I would caution you and it's such an extensive menu because then you raise people expectations unless you can deliver.
That's right. Luckily, we are one of many organizations inside the building. So Theater Y is not tennis about everything that I just said. We are trying to bring together all of these energies from other organizations that have been doing it much longer.
And I only say that because it can come back to haunt you. You came to the neighborhood, you promised us all of this, and you haven't delivered.
Yeah, and I think that's what keeps people from doing this most of our time.
Fantastic. Melissa, I was going to call on you to see whether you had any comments. Would you like to add to anything or?
Let's see, sure.
Oh, yeah, no. So you don't have anything more, and then I think I'm probably the next on the list, that's what she said.
You are,
Yeah.
but you're part of ownership, is that correct?
Oh, I did mention that we're free. We're a free theater. Everything we offer to the public is free. So
Okay,
I think it's important.
but you are the owners of the building.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Trish,
Yeah, I'm Trish Vanderbeck. My firm is PK Vanderbeck Architect. I'm also on the board of Theater Y. So I'm working with them, to do this pro bono. And have just been so excited about what Melissa has done already. So I hear you completely. We don't want to overpromise, but it just blows me away already the community participation and the things that are actually going on. So I would only want to note that when you mentioned the roof, because the building is this concrete structure, we have an incredible amount of structural capacity. So we're looking at having to analyze, but I'm confident that we're going to be able to support the roof up there. And the plan is to do something that wouldn't be open 24/7, but could be open when the building is open to allow the community to have outdoor safe space in the amazing community. And also possibly rent it for parties. All the rest. Of course, we have to go through exiting and a bunch of other things through the building department. But I guess that's really it, other than to say that, Matt did a great job describing how cool this building is. When I first walked in there, my office is in the Carl Street Studios, Burton Place. And I saw that batch elder tile fountain, and I just about fell over, but we had the owner, we were negotiating the purchase, so I was just like, yeah, there's this fountain here, trying not to play it up, so he didn't realize just how awesome his building was. He was using it for community parties as well, so it has that kind of history of the space. So I think that's all I think to say.
Does the commission have any further questions for the audience? You all afraid to ask them another question?
Maybe not a question, but a comment. I think just it's a really nice project and really nice to see it and in that location, right? I used to live like 2 blocks from there, so I know very well what that building was and loved just admiring it. So thank you for that. And thank you for working with having partners that are watching very close.
Thank you. I probably had said to Melissa to also add that we are working on turning the board into a community board. So we've already gotten 2 members from the community, Casper, Shauna, Fitzpatrick from Stone Temple, and from who's our other Jabari Ellis from the Firehouse. Just wanted to be a part of what's going on and somebody pointing out and say, although that's maybe not good for you, but just to so you know.
Thank you. Having no other comments or questions, I'll call for public comments on this. And Mary Lou, you're up.
Okay, sir. I have to bring my laptop up because I didn't print out my notes, so. I have lost. I guess should I stand? I gotta just stay. I'm used to the other meetings. Here we go. I'm back here again. Mary Lou Seidel, Director of Community Engagement Preservation Chicago. Thank you to the DVD's staff and commissioners for researching and nominating this building for landmarking. As the report itself and the records reflect, this is an extraordinary place. But when I learned that Theater Y had acquired it, I knew it had a really excellent future. I worked with Theater Y as they explored other places across Chicago. They're an organization that comes through on its commitment to community collaboration and stronger communities across Chicago. Never doubt the power of community. Preservation Chicago pledges all it can do to support Theater Y's efforts to restore this building, invest in South Lawndale, and bring greater theater to Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Does does the commission have any other questions or comments before we call for the vote? Now I'd like to request a motion to adopt the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Jackson Storage and Van Company warehouse. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Ponce. Second
Seconded.
by Commissioner Fair. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Jekowitz,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolliver,
Yes,
and I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. The next item on the agenda is a report from the Department of Planning and Development for the Mars Candy Factory located at 2019 North Oak Park Avenue in the 29th ward, and Commissioner Murphy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Caitlin. Opened in 1921, the Mars Candy Factory was the first manufacturing plant constructed for Mars Incorporated outside of Minneapolis. Picturesque building helped to spur residential and industrial development in the surrounding area and has remained an asset to the community, providing employment opportunities for thousands of Chicagoans. The building currently operates as a manufacturing plant for Mars Incorporated and is one of the last surviving large-scale candy manufacturing facilities in Chicago. After 95 years, Mars plans to close the plant in 2024. Next slide, please. Mars has informed the city of its intention to convey the 20-acre site upon the facility's closure to an appropriate entity for redevelopment. The proposed landmark designation of the Mars Candy Factory site would guarantee long-term preservation of that portion of the structure designed from its inception to blend well with the residential development of the kind which has naturally developed south and west of the site, while allowing for redevelopment of the remainder of the site. New slide, please. The Mars site is located on the western edge of the Armitage Industrial Corridor and is zoned Planned Manufacturing District 15. The site is bounded by Oak Park Avenue on the west, Armitage Avenue on the south, and by the diagonal tracks of the Metro Milwaukee District West line to the north and east. The site is adjacent to 1- and 2-story single-family homes to the west and south, with industrial uses further to the east. The Department of Planning and Development has recently undertaken a land use study to evaluate existing conditions and identify land use trends in the corridor. The results of this study will be used to inform future land use policy in the corridor, including any proposed changes to the Mars site after it is vacated and sold. Therefore, the Department of Planning and Development finds the proposed landmark designation of the Mars Candy Factory supports the city's overall planning goals for the surrounding Austin community area and the West Planning region, and is consistent with the city's governing policies and plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Murphy. Does the commission have any questions for Commissioner Murphy on this item? If not, are the owners here? No. Good. We'll take public comment then. Mary Lou, you're up again.
Mary Lou Seidel, Director of Community Engagement at Preservation Chicago. It's wonderful to see this building's construction, how it was originally designed to blend so well into the residential community, and to be this gracious about protecting it and helping give it landmark. Since we had a really rough meeting last month, I thought I would end this comment on a lighter note. Honestly, the only regret I think the Mars company should have is the Milky Way bar. Maybe it's its earliest work in 1923, but definitely not its best. Thank you.
No. Halloween was like 3 weeks ago.
Really, my grandfather.
Great. I think that's all. Oh, I did have one quick question. For the building itself, is there any indication of any kind of environmental issues? Do we know?
Alish, would you mind going back to the slide with the main building?
Oh, sure.
Do we have any report on?
In the main area.
Do we have any report on any of the evaluations of the physical structure as far as any asbestos or any lead paint issues, any of that?
No,
Okay.
we don't, we haven't gotten, to be honest, we haven't gotten a lot of information from Mars. I know that they have hired a real estate firm that's marketing it, and I'm sure they would have answers, but as far as for preservation purposes, they haven't gone into any of that. We wouldn't naturally ask for that either, so.
Okay. I mean, I'm asking that question just because I recall the cost of doing Stroger Hospital, that, you know, that thing. So there may be something that we may want to look into.
Okay,
Having no other public comments, I'd like to call for a motion to accept the department's report for the Mars Candy Factory and take the next step in the designation process to request consent from the property owners. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Will. Okay. It was moved by Tolliver, second by Jacobitz. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Fair,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item is a report from the Department of Planning and Development for the Phoebe and John Gray House located at 4362 West Gray Street. This is in the 30th Ward, and Commissioner Murphy, you're on.
Hi, thank you. Patrick Murphy again with the Department of Planning and Development. The proposed designation of the Phoebe and John Gray House does not raise any concerns or issues from a planning perspective. So we do not have a formal report for the commission, but we'd like to state for the record that we recommend approval of the proposed designation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions? If none, I can call for public comment. Do we have any public comments? Mary Lou, you
Yep.
signed up for that one? Okay, go for it.
I am signing it. I signed up for everyone.
Okay,
Mary Lou Seidel, Director of Community Engagement, Preservation Chicago. Irving Park has a wonderful stock of historic homes that deserve greater recognition and protection. It's really beautiful to see the Phoebe and John Gray House protected this way, much like the John Newbeam House that was landmarked just a few years ago. So we are incredibly encouraged to see this happen and just great work. Thank you.
thank you. Any further discussion? I'd like to request a motion to take the next step in the designation process to request consent from the property owners. Is there a motion? So move, Commissioner Fair, second, second by Commissioner Ponce. Commissioner Jenkins stepped out. Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolliver.
Yeah.
Commissioner, and I am a yes as well. Do we need Commissioner Jenkins to? As a, oh, we were already a majority.
yes.
Yep. The motion carries.
Click on your.
That's that item. All right, that's all property tax incentive. Application for the Milwaukee Avenue District. The property located at 1578 North Milwaukee Avenue in the first ward, and Anish, it's yours.
Build up the picture of the PowerPoint. There you go. Click on it, and then minimize that. And then click on that, and then escape. Minimize that, and there you are, the third, there you go.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Eileen Tuffy, Commission staff. Near Plat Management LLC, the owner and applicant has submitted a Class L application for the Flatiron Building located at 1565 to 1589 North Milwaukee Avenue. The property is located in the first ward within the Westtown community area. Designed by architects Hollivard and Roche and completed in 1913, the Flatiron is a three-story mixed-use building, ground floor commercial, and artist live workspaces on the upper two floors. It's a contributing building in the Milwaukee Avenue Landmark District designated in 2008. Terracotta and window work was completed in 2017 by a prior owner. The current owners purchased the building in October of 2022 and retained pre-existing tenant leases. This work will make improvements to the tenant spaces, both commercial and the live workspaces. The proposed $4.2 million rehabilitation was conditionally reviewed and approved by the Permit Review Committee last month. The PRC approval letter and full set of plans were included in your packet. The ground floor commercial upgrades will benefit from the existence of original drawings by Hollivard and Roche, a snapshot of which is shown on the right. The top photo shows existing conditions along Milwaukee Avenue. The area outlined in red indicates the area of storefront work. Existing conditions are non-historic and not character defining to the building. These will be replaced with a new storefront system that closely matches the original Halliburton Roche design shown previously. The former Bank of America tenant space to the left was previously remodeled with uniform storefronts. The North Avenue storefronts on the left half of this image, circled in red, are also non-historic and not character defining to the building. They will be replaced with the same historically appropriate spark glazing system proposed for the Milwaukee Avenue elevation. One additional scope of work for the North Avenue elevation is circled in yellow. A 14 square foot area of terracotta will be patched and repaired when the signage alteration shown in the left photo is removed from the ground floor. Other Class L eligible work is listed on this screen. The existing roof membrane will be patched and repaired. A new reflective coating will be applied to improve energy performance. Currently, the building lacks fully conditioned interior spaces, which this project will address through mechanical system upgrades. New high-efficiency non-ducted HVAC systems will be installed on the second and third floors. Ground floor HVAC units currently mounted on the storefront's exteriors, as shown in the top right photo, will be removed. Upgrades will also be made to the electrical, plumbing, elevator, and fire suppression systems. The minimum investment required for eligibility for the Class L is $2,677,060. The owner will be spending $4,088,650 in qualifying rehab expenses, which exceeds the 50% minimum investment required to qualify for Class L. Total project costs are estimated to be $4,228,650. The Class L projects will meet 30 sustainability points as listed here. Construction is anticipated to begin by early 2024 and take 1 year to complete. A tax analysis has been prepared to estimate the value of the incentive to the applicant. The current annual tax for the property are $299,000, roughly. Estimated property tax over the 12-year period with rehabilitation of the property, but no Class L incentive, are approximately $4.1 million. Estimated property taxes over the same period of time with the Class L incentive in place are approximately $3.9 million. After the Class L period, annual taxes for the property are estimated to increase to an estimated $815,000, which will be $388,000 more than if the building were not rehabilitated. Highlighted in bold, DPD estimated that the total tax abatement to the applicant over 12 years of the incentive is $4,157,650. The city's share of that tax abatement is estimated at $966,000. Next. Staff recommends approval of the request for the Class L incentive for the project, and a draft recommendation is at your places. A letter of support was submitted by Alderman Espada, which is in your packets. This concludes my presentation. The developer Buzz Ruttenberg and his team are here to answer any questions you may have, as well as.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for the study? Having none? Who's speaking? Ricky?
I'll open.
You open. Okay, you got it.
Sure. My name is Bridget O'Keefe, for the record. I'm going to partner to ask a comment. We have a team of experts here today. Buzz Ruttenberg represents the applicant. Jeff Gillette is architect with GW, can't remember handwriting. SGW Architecture. He's the principal. We have SB Friedman, represented by Steve Friedman and Tom Dorsey. And we are here today to answer any questions you have. We're very excited. This is a very prominent building at that intersection of North Milwaukee and Damon. It's just needed some love over the years. And so what I'd like to do is turn it over to one of the partners, Mr. Ruttenberg, and he can talk a little bit about the project and what these benefits are.
Thank you. I'm Buzz Ruttenberg, and I've had the pleasure of living my entire 82 years downtown the city of Chicago. Never lived in suburbs. I was born and raised on Wrightwood Avenue in the 400 block. And my father, who has been deceased about 20 years, started renovating old rooming houses in 1947 after the war. and practiced law and instilled with me the love of the city and the love of building. And we have over the past 50+ years renovated such buildings as the Hotel St. Benedict Flats, which is a landmark. We renovated the Esquire Theater and saved it, although it was on the landmark docket. It was never a landmark. But after the money we had spent preserving the exterior, no one was going to change it. And they didn't. And we have bought this property at a time when interest rates were about 2%. We came out of a trade where we had capital gains and other assets. So we were prepared to take a building that was important, have a lower economic return to ourselves because of the tax savings, the other situation. And we wanted very much to change the way the building worked in the neighborhood. Wicker Park is very important. I've lived in Lincoln Park since I was born, and we watched the gradual change of communities as it moved west through Clybourne Street all the way out to Western Avenue, and then come up North Avenue. And this particular building and the one adjacent to it, which is a little tall, the hotel, are really the anchors for that community. The public transportation is right there. There's a lot of low-rise community buildings there. And sadly, before our ownership started, there were several bars there with 4 o'clock liquor. And those bars have become unsavory. And as our mothers always told us, there's very little good happens after midnight. And unfortunately, there were several shootings at the one bar, including the death of a patron. And in the adjacent bar, there was only a wounding in the arm. We're now to the point where we can tolerate that, which is reprehensible. We've asked both of those bars to leave. We're in court on one. The bank had left, Bank of America, after having been there for a while, for its own reasons. And we know that the Walgreens building, not in our property, but adjacent across the street, is gone. So you could see the negative impact that was beginning to challenge this community, which at the same time has a lot of positive residential influence, and people are trying very much to extend the renovations in ways that are constructive to the community. This particular asset has 2 floors that are originally were offices and art studios. And we have renewed about 80% of those leases with a variety of people and a variety of artistic skills. And it is our intention to keep that upper 2 floors in that same use, which makes it very affordable to get out of your house and rent the space and be able to work outside your home, even though you're living in the neighborhood. So it sort of fits the work from home program. It gives you extra space to be sloppy if you have to be neat at home. You can be artistic, you can paint, you can draw. There's a lot of computer art that's being generated. And the building, however, had no air conditioning. The electricity service was very old and needs to be adjusted. There are 3 elevators in there at the moment. None are running, other than occasional use of the freight, but not safe for passengers. Now, it is only 3 stories, but from an ADA standpoint, we need to be able to have it running and operating. And it is not as much of a great economic opportunity as it is a great social opportunity. And a lot of what we've done in our landmark issues, in the buildings we bought, have a social component that resonates with us. When you've been developing in the city of 1947, when you live in the city, and you raise your children in the city, there are compensations that are more important than just money. We have the shops at Curly Court, which are in Old Town, in the 1700 block, that are part of the Old Town Historic District. And we have been preserving those, and there's a flower shop, and there's a clothing shop, and a running shop with shoes, and a bank. And it is probably the most idyllic neighborhood functioning. We have no parking. So our environmental footprint on a negative basis is zero. People walk this and people use it on a constructive living basis. And we feel that's really the advantage of this building too, that integrate it, make it part of the community where it will generate the appropriate pedestrian influence and will set an anchor for businesses for blocks and blocks.
Thank you. Anybody else want to make any comments? Okay. Any questions of the commission?
Maybe just one question. I mean, I'm sure this is far ahead of this time, but I'm curious for the commercial spaces in particular, do you have an attitude towards the type of tenants that, or the mix of tenants that you're interested in?
We're open to anybody who is interested. The rent's not free. And the rent will typically run now between $50 and $70 a foot. What we've tried to do is set up some smaller retail spaces where in 1,000 feet, the rent is secondary to your ability to do business. And so we would expect to find some food shops. We do have a bank that will replace the bank. And we did get more than that rent from the bank, but that is the primary corner. And it's got an advertising marketing value location as well. The L is there. And as we're all aware, Wells Fargo is really making a big commitment to the city of Chicago and wanting to put its signage and its services throughout all the communities. And we can certainly welcome that opportunity. But we're happy to have any. And the same is upstairs with the art studio. And you know, there are not a lot of office buildings or neighborhood walk-up kind of opportunities where somebody can get out of their house, maybe make a little photographic studio, a little developing lab. And we expect to be able to do that, air condition the spaces, make the halls safe. There's public bathrooms, which need more than a little attention. And make it building safe. There was no security. So there was an open door. Anybody could walk up at any time. I've already changed that. It didn't make any sense the way in which we all have to live. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? No, I want to thank you for the purchase of this building. It has been an icon for the Wicker Park neighborhood. I did have questions regarding, you know, these are pretty major upgrades, particularly the MEP elevator, you know. So do you anticipate though, particularly in the upper floors, is that rent going to
No,
be, okay,
no, we've already
so,
raised the rents a little bit.
okay,
They were accepted. By
okay,
virtue of the fact that people signed.
okay,
And I don't want to sound out of place, but we didn't buy it to make the most amount of money.
right,
And the motivation in owning as many of the landmarks as we have is that it fits as part of an emotional portion of your portfolio. And we are doing fine by utilizing section 1031 of the Internal Revenue Code, which avoids us to pay tax on the profit from a different location and move that money here. And if it only makes 2, 3, 4%, it's okay for us. You put it in the context of our commitment to the city and the total portfolio. I'm chairman and founder of the Belgravia Group. It's been a housing developer in the city, and we've been working here since the mid '80s. We try to have prices that reflect a reasonable profit for us, but costs continue to get pushed up and up. We've never seen a year where plumbers, electricians, carpenters, glazers, or roofers ever take a pay cut. They always get a pay increase, and that's wonderful on one side, but it has a consequence on the other. And so, you know, naturally things are going to go up, and we appreciate the support that we can in being able to hold the line with the property taxes as we try to make this building a real social asset as well as an economic stability. And one that pays homage to Oliver Roach, a very important firm.
Yep.
We're happy that we had the recommendation of the commission. And we look forward to doing it.
Well, we appreciate your commitment to the city, sir.
Thank you very much.
If there are no other questions, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Mary Lou?
Oh, me, Mary Lou Seidel, Director of Community Engagement for Preservation Chicago. This is an incredible building. We all know and value, understand the economic impact of historic restoration and adaptive reuse. We know what it feels like from a community's perspective to see buildings that generations have loved, be cared for. So I'll stick here to a personal story about this building's impact on me. I was biking from the People's Church at the Civic Center Day to Andersonville on Saturday, and I came down North Avenue, and that building just always takes my breath away when I hit that corner. And I used to live at 1253 North Paulina back in the day when it was not a great neighborhood that wasn't gentrified. I think my rent was $300 for a 2-bedroom, but that building's had that same impact on me for all these years later, 4 years. And thank you guys for taking it on. It's great hearing you talk about why you're doing it.
Thank you.
Great. No other comments. I'd like to request a motion to approve the recommendation to City Council for the Class L property tax incentive for the property located at 1578 North Milwaukee Avenue. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved, Commissioner Jacobitz, a second by, sorry, Commissioner Fair. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolliver.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, folks, for
Yes,
all of
thank
your
you.
hard work, and we look forward to this. And maybe Walgreens will come back. Nah, CVS will come back.
We'll find 2 neighborhood users.
Exactly. And Flash Taco will continue to thrive.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. All right, permit review committee reports. Commissioner Jacobitz.
Yes. The Permit Review Committee reviewed 6 projects at its October 5th, 2023 meeting. All 6 projects were approved with conditions, and the report summarizing the scope of the proposed projects and the committee's decisions was included in your packets. This report is for your information for the.
Thank you. And Emily?
For the month of October, staff reviewed 151 permit applications. A total of 188 reviews were performed by staff. And the average review time was 4.3 days.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? If none, thank you very much. Finally, some announcements. Schedule for a public hearing on the proposed landmark designation pursuant to 2-120-670 through 2-120-680 of the municipal code. The announcement for the Century Building located at 202 South State Street and the Consumers Building at 220 South State Street, both in the 34th Ward, will occur on Monday, November 13th, 9 a.m. City Hall, room 201A. And I get to be the hearing officer.
Yay.
Loads of fun. And if there is no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Where, yeah, you, what time do you
We'll
want?
start the Permit Review Committee in 5 minutes.
Oh, good. Thank you, sir. Thank you, folks. I will.
Last month, I feel bad. Really feel bad now. It's like, yeah, it's more. I wish I could package last year. Maybe she gets one.
Screen sharing. And so I went. And it was still. So that's what I was.
Oliver, thank you.
All
right.
When we get talking, I'll think of that.
I'm gonna go downstairs.